This is the CHRILLCAST. I am Chris.
And I am TiMMy.
I'm JC.
Always looking good down there, JC. TiMMy, why don't you tell everybody about your channel?
Well, I'm TiMMy, and I am teaching everyone on the internet the history of the garbanzo bean. Little known fact, started the culinary about 1880s, and since then has been used in hummus. It's also chickpeas, is a little known fact, is also a garbanzo bean, same thing. So that's about that's pretty much my whole channel.
Go watch his video about world politics. It's great.
Well, that channel. You gotta tell me which one you were talking about.
This is what he was going to do on the last episode when he had the headache.
Yes.
JC, what's your channel? What's going on there?
So
Besides the fact that you destroyed the box of the camera lens.
Yeah, it's okay. So my channel is a mixture between me posting short films that I've made because I'm very passionate about the art of filmmaking, but every single week on that YouTube channel I am doing live streams of video games. Right now I'm doing a bunch of zombie video games, climbing the Call of Duty Zombies world record ladder, and in the future I'm just going to be expanding out to just doing whatever games that people want me to do.
3 world records.
3 world records.
I feel like I'm not gonna be able to. Why do I feel like I need to like live this down or something?
This dude's got 3 world records, doesn't even bother talking about it. So. World record holder! Yeah, why don't we get number 4? What are you working on next?
I'm working on a world record in Call of Duty 5 World at War. I try to get a high round without turning on the power switch. So there's like no boosts to make you more deadly or give you more health, and it's hard.
I believe
Especially
that.
because it's an old game and it's very glitchy.
I remember trying to get the highest round on Nocturne and Toten. That was like ridiculously hard once you get past a certain level.
Well, the highest round on Nocturne Toten's in like 4,000s, so...
I believe that. But just playing it
4,000s.
without... That is nuts.
Yeah, and World at War actually has the highest zombie record on the third map, Shinonuma. It just got reset this year. The highest round ever achieved in Call of Duty Zombies, 9,948.
Seriously?
Wow.
Yes.
Holy
It was set
cow.
this
Do
year.
that. Wow.
I love this video that's playing in the background, but I'm going to have to kick off of it because otherwise we're going to get stuck watching this instead of talking about what we need to talk about. But seriously, guys, record holder in Call of Duty Zombies down here. He did these zombie skits called Run from the Dead, which is also a famous iOS game name, by the way.
Yeah. Into the Dead.
Into the Dead. You're right. I'm sorry. Into the Dead.
Into the Dead. No, I know it. I played it.
Yep.
It's good.
I kept thinking of that game every time I read your title. But today we're talking about a legendary console known for being legendarily a failure for Nintendo to the degree that Nintendo doesn't even really ever talk about it. The Virtual Boy. I'm going to give you guys some stats on this real quick. The Virtual Boy is a 32-bit portable tabletop video game VR headset console developed and manufactured by Nintendo, released on July 21st, 1995 in Japan, which is why we're covering this in July of 2020 because it's 25 years old. It was marketed as the first console capable of displaying stereoscopic 3D graphics. The games use a parallax effect to create the illusion of depth. Sales failed to meet targets, and by early 1996, Nintendo ceased the distribution and game development, having only released 22 games. I'll just let that sink in for a second. Nintendo has a console that has 22 total games. Development of the Virtual Boy lasted 4 years and began under the project name VR32. Nintendo entered a licensing agreement to use a 3D LED eyepiece technology developed by U.S. company Reflection Technology. It also built an entire factory in China to be used only for Virtual Boy manufacturing. Over the course of development, the console technology was downscaled due to high costs and potential health concerns, and an increasing amount of resources were reallocated to the development of the Nintendo 64. Nintendo's next home console. The Virtual Boy was panned by critics and was a commercial failure even after repeated price drops. Its failure has been attributed to its high price, monochrome display, unimpressive 3D effect, and lack of true portability. And the health concerns, there's that. Stereoscopic technology in video game consoles re-emerged in later years to more success, including the Nintendo 3DS, even though nobody uses the 3D effect anymore at all, really.
Nope.
Nintendo shipped fewer than 800,000 Virtual Boy units worldwide, making it the second lowest selling platform ever by Nintendo, other than what? The Nintendo 64DD, which is a far less known console and never even released in the US, which is why, in my opinion, the Virtual Boy is the the least successful console ever to be released by Nintendo. So 64DD was a disc drive add-on for the Nintendo 64. All right, so what do you guys remember about the Virtual Boy yourselves?
I remember my best friend in grade school had one, and I didn't.
Did you feel bad you didn't?
I did. I thought it was really cool, and it was, red. I just remember all of it being red, monochromatic, as you said there, with a big word. But yeah, it kind of burned into your eyeballs a little bit too. Like certain games where certain parts didn't move too much after you pulled out of that thing. You looked around, you'd be like still seeing guys. I remember that being like, that's probably what they mean by health concerns, because I can only imagine with other colors or brighter colors, it probably was even worse, But yeah, no, I just remember being jealous of my my buddy and getting to play it every time we'd hang out, and it was a great thing. I wanted one really bad. I still do. I still check eBay periodically for them because why not? They're expensive now.
Oh yeah, they're like cult classics, I think.
Right.
They're in like that realm. I mean, personally, I've never had a single shred of interest in a Virtual Boy because it's important as a concept, but it fell victim to being way ahead of its time in a really bad way, where the idea was ahead of the technology they used to make it, and so it caused all these problems, and they could only do it in that shade of red. And so I believe that's the reason why the Virtual Boy could have failed so badly. Yet VR is starting to become a somewhat recognized brand, I guess, because now the technology is there to meet the idea.
So back in 1995 when this came out, my experience was I wanted one, because of course I wanted one. These commercials are legendary. War of the Worlds with a Virtual Boy. It's so cool. But my parents thought, hey, let's get him the Tiger R Zone, which I'll show you what that is. It was meant to be a competitor, really just piggybacking off of the success.
Totally the same thing.
Of the Virtual Boy. It's like Arzone VR. See if I can find it. Yeah, this is it. This isn't the one that I sold mine a while back. That's why I can't show it to you guys. But see if I can find this. Yeah, here it is. This is what it looked like.
That is amazing.
So this is like augmented reality.
Yeah, essentially. So that little tiny clear thing you see out he's wearing, that's where it's displayed for you to see. That's the R Zone. So the R Zone.
God, he's like a futuristic soldier.
The R Zone had the greatest commercial ever, though, because it made my parents actually think that this was something equivalent to the Virtual Boy. I'm sorry. This is one of the worst. Well, just watch this thing. You can just tell it's not legit. Nothing. And the best part is the graphics they used on the screen to kind of show this thing off were not. See, this is where they kind of get to that almost. That's what it looked like. That's what it looked like. And they tried making it look like it was the other things. But that's it. It's just like Game Gear style graphics.
Yeah, it's like
Wow.
borderline fraud.
It is, basically, yeah.
Just barely not. Because they do show it's like, oh yeah, the red stuff is what's on the eyeglass, but
Yeah.
look at the pretty stuff beforehand.
I will say I played this. I did play it. Christmas of 1996 or whatever year it was. But I can't say I was impressed.
Just thinking of the meme, it's like, we have this at home.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
The thing is, most people think of the Virtual Boy of the VR at home.
Yeah.
The only
So.
difference is you think of the Virtual Boy as the actual premium stuff.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think? What's the legacy of this console, the Virtual Boy?
I mean, I think obviously there weren't a lot of them created, so now they're being ported by people who do collect those kind of things.
$200. Buy it now.
You know,
It's not
How much?
bad. $200.
200.
That's
not bad
bad
at all. It works.
250. Yeah, it's got everything.
Usually
does
they're
it
around
work?
250.
With a
That's
game,
real
with a
price.
game, with a game, baseball. Timmy's about to
Interesting.
itch that. He's like, all right, I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes.
You just hear a shuffling of a wallet off screen.
His wallet opens up, poof, all the money's gone.
Aggressively typing.
I will buy this. Because look at the bids on this one's already at 207s. I mean, these things are not cheap, you know.
They usually
No.
go like 250, and if they have a lot of things with them, then they're getting up there crazy. If you have a box, I mean, fine. And honestly, usually there's not that many listed. Like, I'm kind of surprised to see as many as you're looking at here.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like a bunch of collectors like, nah, I'm good. I don't need the 2,000 brand new. Holy cow.
In the box.
In the
Yeah,
box.
Sounds about right.
Like
Yeah.
the one that I saw at the game store years back was like this. It had like, oh wow, 7 games. The guy that I had seen one physically had this box right here. The Blockbuster case. Those Blockbuster cases are worth so much
Yeah.
money.
I was
Um,
gonna say, I remember renting this one time as well. I honestly forgot until this moment just now that we actually did get to rent one.
So
Those
the
amazing briefcases.
oh yeah, the briefcase. The guy that I had seen one from played one a little bit. He had the briefcase, the entire 22 game collection, and a completely working model. So
Oh my god.
it would have been like this except with 22 games. Yeah, I think he even had half the boxes for the games.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was probably worth a lot of money. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
This
But
game.
I think, I don't know, this was crucial to what we're going through now. You know?
Oh yeah, 100%. So, what do you think the legacy of the Virtual Boy is now? Is it the current VR headsets? Is that where we're at, or does this have no impact?
I think that's what it spawned. It serves as like a footnote. It's like, okay, this is what they were trying to do, but
Right.
there's no way you can convincingly do it with 1980s stuff. Like, it's basically 1980s tech. You're trying to cobble something together. And now with VR being able to do something as high as each eye is 4K, it's such an improvement, but it you can think of it as not just like simply the grandfather, but more like the foundation of the house of VR. It's really rough. No one likes looking at it too much, unless if you really, really dig into it. But it's so important. Like there's no denying the influence it had on people.
Agree with that.
100%. If I ever get a Virtual Boy, I will be buying this game, Jack Bros.
Oh, they're showing both eyes.
Yep.
That's
Interesting.
beautiful.
Yeah, Jack Bros is one of the most technically impressive games on the system. This one and the Wario Land game are both very impressive. But this was actually Atlas, by the way. Atlas is the company that makes Persona.
Oh, really?
Yep. So
Huh.
Atlas, and it's kind of weird because they've never made another game like this one. This is like a platformer thing. I'll show you what it looks like. It's like a dungeon platformer crawler game. It's really different from anything they make, but yeah, I've always been like kind of envious of anybody that owns this particular game. Personally,
And this makes me want to like do this and put my face up on the screen. Will that work?
yeah, totally. As far as VR goes, I think we'd still get VR without the Virtual Boy. We just wouldn't have a good idea of how it should be implemented. Does that make sense? Like,
VR in one way or another was going to be like inevitably.
oh yeah,
It's the next step because there's always the companies that are like, oh yes, we must make it as real as possible. Like VR's gone so far that out of the mainstream, there's full VR headsets, which are like you're on a 360 treadmill, and like stuff like that.
so I always,
You could.
go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
Virtual Boy's important, but VR, yeah, it's important to know that it's probably inevitable.
I'm gonna say I agree with that it is inevitable. I also think you could like make the case that Virtual Boy pushed back how much time because it wasn't successful at all. That maybe it took a little longer for people to be like, let's try some VR stuff again, because it really, I mean, I know Nintendo did a little bit of it with their handheld, was it 3DS with the little gauge thing, but I don't know. I just feel like you could make the case that because it did so poorly sales wise, maybe it stopped people from pursuing buying those consoles, and also companies from attempting to put them out too.
That's fair.
I mean, answer honestly, like, do you think people would have bought a PS2 version of VR, like with those types of graphics?
But these types of graphics or PS2 graphics?
Like, think of like PS2 graphics, but VR. Do you think people would have gone for that?
I think if it was an option to add on, maybe. But if it was how the game was played, no, I don't think it would have been nearly what the PS2 was.
Mm-hmm. So
PS2, yeah, they really just broke the barrier of like, hey, you can watch DVDs too, or whatever, whatever you want to do, like, or I don't know, just
yeah.
The
become
fact
an
that
entertainment
Nintendo was able to make this at all in 1995 is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Just, I mean, think about
anyone
this.
didn't think it was impressive.
Think about this. They put two screens for people's eyes, the size of your eyes, in a little console, the size of an actual VR headset looks like nowadays. Like, regardless of how good the screen looks, that is impressive to me. The fact that they did it at all.
I mean, and I guess the science behind it isn't that crazy, but I also wonder how exactly they did it. Did they just shift the frame over? Did they only shift the character and only move the background? Like what? I just need to. I haven't played it in 15, 20 years, so
Right.
I have literally no idea how.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially. So, do you know how the 3DS does it?
Yeah, I mean,
It uses
I know
very
that it
similar
moved.
technology. So, essentially, the way that you do it is you have, and the way the 3DS does it is essentially every other line of the video is a separate depth. Like they're separate pieces. So, like half of the frame, every other piece is the forefront, and half of the frame, every other piece is the background. Okay? So, are you following me so far?
yeah,
So then in the backdrop, like the way that the slider works on the 3DS is that they scale the depth behind the character with that slider. And it's literally software and hardware together does that. Now the way it works is they insert double the amount of lines horizontally that would normally be required. That's how they make it look like a normal image, but also have the depth. So you're doubling the pixel density across the horizontal frame without doing anything to the vertical frame.
So it's not Voodoo.
No. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you for explaining it, though. 'Cause
Welcome.
I had no idea that was. I honestly just thought it was just, the background and the foreground were separate, and they let you control how far apart they were or something. I don't know. I never really thought about it too much. But,
Yeah, I mean the technology to do it. It takes quite a bit of work to make that work.
right.
But essentially, you have
But
two
like this,
fields.
though, this is just 2 frames, right?
Yeah,
So
essentially you've
they're
got
just
2
slightly-
frames, one overlaid on the other, and the way they do it is like I said, every other line of pixels is a separate depth. So like one's in front, one's in the back. Like see how my hands are? Like, imagine this is it, and then you just, you see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's kind of like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, but the 3DS is very impressive because it essentially, when you move that slider back and forth, the software forces it to do that.
Interesting.
It controls the frame. Every other line of pixels is on the other part of the scale. So that's how that works. I actually explained this in like episode 1 of the CHRILLCAST. Don't watch that video.
What a throwback.
Don't watch that video. But I did explain
Wow,
this
episode.
a long time ago.
Throwback.
And Will was very confused because I had a much worse way I explained it. I did not explain it very well, so I'm glad I get a chance to redeem myself. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about the Virtual Boy? Here's another good question. Over the years, and this is the last little bit we're going to talk about for this, but over the years, Nintendo has taken a lot of risks compared to Microsoft and Sony. I mean, what's the biggest risk Microsoft and Sony have taken? It was because of the Wii, in my opinion, that they did the Kinect. And then the Kinect turned out to be a mistake in the Xbox One. And then like Sony with the PS Move, which actually turned out to be a positive product. They've used it for their VR. Anything else? Like the iToy for the PS2? I don't know. There's a lot of... I think Sony's a lot more careful.
Well, the other companies are definitely a lot more careful, but I would say it works for Nintendo because they either guess correctly. I wouldn't even say guess correctly. They choose correctly, or they don't. And if they are correct, then it becomes the Wii or it becomes the Nintendo Switch. And if they don't, it becomes the Virtual Boy or the Wii U.
I love the Wii U. But yeah, I agree with you. You're right. Because they don't usually double down on something that fails. They just kind of let it slowly die. Whereas like Microsoft, like they were like, we will die on the Kinect hill.
Mhm.
For some reason, they chose the Kinect to just like, we will die on this hill.
True.
Anything
Which
else?
they
Guys?
did.
Anything else you guys want to add to that?
I don't think so.
I
Loving
just-
watching this
yeah.
Virtual Boy.
I just put out like a in general thank you to Virtual Boy for failing and allowing others to succeed.
Yeah, that's fair. As always, I'm
way. Oh,
and
sorry.
burning Timmy's eyes. As
Yeah.
always, I'm Chris,
And I'm TiMMy
JC.
and we will see you.
on the next CHRILLCAST. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Good.
Whoa, my bad.
Don't do that.
I saw that.
Why are
one.
you? Ow!
I want to do something. Hold on.
Whoa! Jesus Christ!